Welcome to yet again another episode of Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. It's your boy, Jonathan Loudermilk, and I've got my PIC. If you don't know what that means, that's partner in crime, Mark, the Fitness Ninja Zalmanoff, and we've got a massive guest on today's show, and Mark's going to tee this one off for us.
Yeah, buddy, I'm excited about this one. It's my homie here. So I'm going to give you a rundown of who he is first, and then we'll tell you who he is. He is a natural-born salesman. There's no problem he can't see a solution to, even the ones that he causes himself. Very nice. Aren't those always the greatest lessons? He's a father. He's a husband. He's a leader. He's a provider for his family and his family of choice. He is a Christian who knows God loves him. I love that. He's not afraid of the struggle. He's been through hell and fought his way up to heaven on earth. I can attest to that. He's the most loyal person you will ever meet as long as you don't turn on him, and I've seen that as well many times over the years. He is an author, a speaker, a coach, a game changer, an innovator, a leader. His mission in life is to help as many people as possible become the person they were put here on this planet to be. He's focused, and he fights the force of average, which we will talk about with great vengeance and furious anger, because you always got to throw that in there, right? He also runs a group called Apex that John and I are a member of. This guy is a friend of mine, a client of mine, a mentor of ours, and really just an awesome fucking human being. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Stewman. Thanks for being with us, man.
Did you write that?
You kind of wrote some of that, but I made it.
Somebody on my team must have written some of that. This is like way too nice for what I would write about myself. It's like, oh, that sounds really good. This guy's going to be awesome.
We appreciate you being here, man. And as you know, we always start with a little story time. So what you got for us?
So you want to do like, it needs to be a story about a gym. So when I was maybe 16, I bought my first gym membership, right? And it was at this place in the city called Allen, Texas. And it was like a muscle gym. Everybody in there. And this was back in the day, you know, back before, I mean, you had to know somebody to get in a gym, right? Prior to this, my adopted dad, he was always had a gym somewhere. Prior to this, they rented out an old piece of shit house and put, like, dude, if you dropped a plate, like, it might go through the floor. You know what I mean? It was like, don't drop a plate, right? And so this, finally, we moved to the big city. Allen had about 6,000 people in it, and there was this gym, right? So my stepdad, he said, you need to buy your own gym membership. And it was like $40 or $50, man. It was a lot of money, right? And they gave me like the high school student discount. So I go month one, pay my $40 or $50. Month two, pay my $40, $50. I'm starting to get into shape. Month three, they charge me. I show up one morning to work out. The whole fucking place is empty. Like, they just, like, totally took everything.
Midnight
move
out.
There's no more gym. Midnight move out, right? Like, no more gym, right? So whoever financed the equipment was probably like, son of a bitch, right? So I'm like, okay, you know what? That happens. You know, I guess business is whatever. And so I go to there's another gym that just opened. Different person, different ownership, whatever. Go there. Same thing, work out for about 6 months. Show up one morning right after they build us. It's fucking empty, too. I'm like, what is the deal? So I guess the lesson to this story is do not sign up for a gym membership in Allen, Texas. There's something fucking going on there. You know, something going on there. But like, as a young man, like the gym's always been important to me. And as a young man, I had a job, and so I actually, oftentimes when I lived on the streets, the gym's where I would shower. Right after that, I went and got a membership at Bally's. You guys remember that place?
That's where I started.
Those are real hardcore closers, you know. Because
let me get my manager.
They got you a line of credit. So it's like, if you didn't pay them, they didn't give a fuck. They already got their money, right? That's on you and your bad credit situation, right? Like, that was a good hustle, man. So I ended up going at Bally's after that. But I mean, you know, to me, $50, just devastational to miss it. Like, damn, I don't even get to work out, and you took my money. And it wasn't like, back then they did ACH debits, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even like you could, you know, dispute a credit card or whatever. This shit's just gone, you know?
That's so funny. So I started at Bally. That was my first training job right out of college, Bally Total Fitness. And I'm trying to sell training to people who can barely afford the $19.95 a month membership. And I got to go get my manager every time I have a consult so he can walk in, make it super fucking awkward and try to close people. Yep. Oh, my God, I hated that.
Yep. Did you? Which one did you work at?
In Louisville, Texas.
Louisville. All right. Yeah, there was quite a few of them. I started in Irving, and it was cool. Like, there was a track upstairs. I mean, they were like cutting edge at the time. What are those now? Are they gone?
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone the way of Gold's Gym, huh? They just don't exist anymore, huh? Man,
Yeah.
they were nice places.
So you wear so many hats. Like, seriously, of all the people I know, I don't know many people who do more than you. How do you manage all that on a day in and day out basis while still, because you work out with me 5 days a week, week in and week out, like you don't miss unless you're out of town. So how do you manage that as far as your schedule goes and making sure that you're still fulfilling all those obligations that you have, from business to relational to whatever else is out there?
Well, nowadays I have a great team of people around me. It took only a decade to accomplish that, overnight success there. But back in the day, let's say 5-6 years ago, maybe even sooner than that, but for sure 5 or 6 years ago, I wrote and I still write my own stuff, but there's a difference between writing a blog post, then uploading it and SEOing it and putting the graphics. And I did that. I produced my own blog post. We'll call it that. I produced my own podcast. I produced all my own, I recorded and produced all my own videos and shit like that. I mean, it wasn't too long ago I was doing all that. And somehow I still had time to take a nap in the afternoon every day. It's amazing what we can accomplish if we really put our mind to it. And so for me, I am a person that lives as much as I can distraction free. So if I've got something to do, I'm doing that, right? Like most people, let's say for entrepreneur, you're lucky in your business because you do have somebody kind of telling you what to do, because as soon as they walk through the door, you're like, oh, so-and-so's here. This is what they're doing today, right? Most of us, we don't have a manager or a boss, right? Nobody's telling that project that needs to get done. There's not a deadline or you're going to get fired. So what I learned to do is just keep a really good calendar. Like if I need to do something, I don't say, hey, I'm going to get around to that. I go and see when around to that exists on my calendar and I plug it in accordingly. If I want to do the shit for 3 or 4 days, man, I don't want to do this. I'll just put it out 3 or 4 days. And then I've still bought myself the same amount of time, but it's written down, which means I got a commitment to it. And then I treat the calendar like it's my boss. Hey, my boss says I got to do this hour. My boss says I got to do this hour. And I look at it that way. And because I'm not a person that is distracted, and what I mean by distracted is here's what most people do. Okay, I need to write a blog, right? We'll just stick with that. I need to write a blog. A blog might take them an hour, okay? Well, first, before I write the blog, I'm going to go and get a Monster, right? And then I'm going to scroll social media for a minute, think of some other things that people are writing to look at for a second. And then 15 minutes goes by really quick, right? It's like, all right, I'm going to get this snack, and then I'm going to write this blog, right? First of all, motherfucker, you done rewarded yourself 3 times. You ain't done shit, you're doing it backwards, right? You're rewarding yourself for nothing. And so then that blog post is like, oh shit, my hour's done. You know what? I gotta do the next thing. The next thing arrives. Like, you know what? I gotta go to the bathroom first. That's how most people. So me, I'm like, shit, I got an hour to do this because I'm not gonna get that time back. And I looked at it even when I wasn't the person or with the business that I am today. It was like, hey, this is how I'm gonna get ahead. But here's what I also looked at 5 years ago. If I could do all that work in a day, my competition, maybe they had a whole team that could do that, but most of them weren't doing it. So if I just plowed through that shit, and so I look at it this way, man, today I wrote a blog post already that I sent in this morning, and I don't have to do that now. I've got other people to do it, but I still do it, right? I did my 5 podcasts every single week. I don't have to do that anymore. I got other people that can do it for me. And I got so mmany at this point, I could just play the old ones back and fucking nobody noticed the difference anyway, right? We're at 800. So, but I've always just stayed focused on that schedule. And because I'm not distracted and going and getting a Monster and going and getting a snack, because I'll say, hey, I'll get a Monster or snack after I knock this shit out, which actually gives me more motivation to knock it out. I get more work done than anybody.
You say it often, our circle says it often, success leaves clues. And I hope if you're listening to this and you listen to some of these other interviews, there's some real common themes here of daily disciplines, living by the calendar, having a routine. That shit's important. And especially you coaches that are on your own, you're an independent coach, you're doing your own thing. Maybe you're even online only. There are so many ways to waste a day away. Right. Like you just said, you sit down to write the blog post and an hour later you didn't do anything about that whatsoever. And you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, but it never goes on the calendar and it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And, so often we we overestimate what we can accomplish in a week, but greatly underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. And so then we never do anything.
Yeah.
Or we put all this stuff on our schedule, and then it's overwhelming, and we don't do any of that either.
Well, I think that calendar hack is really genius right there, because we get paid for the result, not for the attempt.
As an entrepreneur, that's how it works.
You know, so I think that shifted that mindset for a lot of coaches that me and Mark talked to. Like, they're making that leap from, you know, working in a job to building a side hustle to going full time on their own. And then there's that mental shift that has to occur because they don't have the manager, like you said earlier.
Well, here's how life works. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? And if you can't manage your time right, guess what? You're probably not managing your finances either. If you can't manage your time right, guess what? You're probably missing out on the gym. Okay. I'm one of the busiest people I know most days. Some days, like today, I looked up, it's like, oh shit, I only got to be on a podcast. It's fucking, it's like, I better write a blog post. You know what I mean? Like that's like my line of thinking. You know, I'm over here like, okay, well, I got a day off where I looked at my calendar today and you guys were the only appointment. And I could have easily said, oh, well, you know, I'll take the whole day off. And I could have just, you know, said, I only got one thing to do today. Shit, I've been firing up the people. You know what I mean? Like, I've been behind the scenes, like just firing up the people, helping them solve their problems. And so, hey, my day's clear doesn't mean that I get to be unproductive. But now I can aimlessly wander through the desert of time without having to be disciplined, you know? But I can tell you, for me, I make time on the calendar. So my calendar has everything. For example, I usually wake up about 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I used to wake up a lot earlier than that, but on average, that's what it is. The first thing my calendars tell me to do is go right in my G-Code app, right? Then it says right after that, go to the gym. Right? And so I'm trying to keep on that schedule, you know? And then when I get to the gym, I know that that's my time to write a Facebook post before I walk in. Then when I get out of the gym, I know that I'm going to be in the office by 10 a.m. And then I know that I've got until 12 to do Ryan shit. And from 1 o'clock, at 12, I'm going to eat lunch. And at 1 o'clock, all my afternoon is booked up till about 5:30. So I feel like I can get done from that, 9 o'clock in the morning to noon, what takes most people 2 or 3 days, and then do the mindless phone calls and shit that you can't really be efficient with, do those in the afternoon.
And, again, this is just knowing you personally, like, you operate with such a mission of what you're trying to accomplish, which is why, like you said, you have a day off, but you can't just take it off. Like you're like, fuck it. If I don't do something, then I feel, like a total slug, like I'm not being productive at all. And you understand the value that you bring to people. And again, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I think we have to keep that in the forefront of our mind and not allow those times that we have available to just waste away. Like, there's so much impact to making, especially you fitness coaches. Like, that's why we're in this game. We're here to change people's lives. And, if your client cancels, go find somebody else to help. If your call falls through, your consult falls through, go find somebody else to help. There's, America's like still, 72% overweight and obese now? I mean, the number keeps going up.
Right.
So there's plenty of people out there that need us. So for a long time, you were kind of known, I guess, as a sales trainer. And in the past, you've talked about the 4 levels of a salesman. And I think that would be of high value for the coaches listening to this. So why don't you walk us through what those are and how they're applicable to not just fitness coaches, but really anyone?
Well, this isn't anything that's really new. There's been different people, and that's the beauty of marketing. Like, there's different people say things different ways. So you may have heard this before, but the way that I see it, and this has really been the evolution in my life as a salesperson. So we all start out working for somebody, right? Like, somebody gives us a job. I started off working for a car wash, selling car washes, and then working for a mortgage broker. So we're employed. And at some point, if you're good as a salesperson, you realize that sales is only half the job, because marketing gets their attention and sales gets their money, right? But without getting their attention, they don't know who you are to give you their money. So a good salesperson will evolve into the second level by being able to generate leads, okay? And you've got to do this while you're on level 1, but this is part of the evolution level 2. Once you can generate leads and you can close sales, you can fucking do anything. You're like a young, fine, single woman that's got a blue check on the Instagram. You don't need no man. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, when you can generate your own leads and close your own sales, what the hell do you need a boss for? What the hell do you need a corporation? That's when you make the transition to level 2, which is self-employed, right? You become an entrepreneur. You've taken a risk. That's what entrepreneur means, the French word for risk taker. That's what it means. You've taken a risk and you've bet on yourself. But guess what? You've got these skills working for somebody else. See, I work for a company called TexasLending.com. I've always been a good salesperson, but they had such a badass lead generating machine, and I was able to close 10 times the amount of leads I was doing, because we used online and commercials. I was able to close 10 times the deals because I wasn't out driving around. And I might have made 20% less money per deal, but I'm doing 10 times the freaking deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it efficiently. I'm not out on the streets trying to meet strangers. They're people who are warm and interested in me. So I learned from them how they generated those leads. Eventually, I went out on my own, right? Once you are self-employed, and here's the thing, and let me just make this is real important too. When you are an employee, a salesperson, and you make a sale, it's all about you. The check is coming to you, right? Like the company owes you money, you're on payroll. It's not your problem if some stuff gets messed up on the back end. That changes drastically when you're self-employed. So now all of a sudden, everything is your problem. But the beauty is when you're self-employed, you're still getting paid first, right? You might have some overhead, some bills, some rent, some equipment, things of that nature, but you get paid first. When you get to that level, when you're evolving from that level, the self-employed level, the difference is you already know how to generate leads and close sales, right? So you've got that down. So now you're having to learn how to scale a business, right? So how do you replace yourself? So let's say that you don't like writing blog posts. We'll just go back to that. You don't like writing blog posts. So how do you get a blog editor? How do you hire that person? How many more sales do you have to make to take that task off of your plate?
Yeah.
And how many hours of time will that give you back every month that you can go out and do revenue producing activities? Okay. So you start thinking, and then you realize, and my friend Andy Frisella really taught me this, that every person, if put in the right position and doing the right job, if you've actually hired the right person, then they're generating revenue or time for your business. Right? And so you begin to duplicate and scale that process till you become ultimately an executive, a CEO, right? So now you're not just some self-employed person that's you and maybe an assistant or maybe a VA or something like that. You're a corporation with a board of directors, right? You might have 5 or 10 employees, 2 or 3 of them sit on the board. But at this point, you shouldn't be the person that's doing all the execution. You should have a COO that's going and taking care of that. You should have a CFO that you're paying that's taking care of the finances, and you're the driving force of the company because you're at scale. So what you have to learn there is people. You have to learn how to be a good leader. So as a salesman, you got to learn how to generate leads. As self-employed, you got to learn how to scale and hire people. As CEO, you got to learn how to be the leader, because I'm not picking up sales calls and shit like that anymore, right? As much as I love it, that's just not my job anymore. The CEO is typically not the sales guy unless they're self-employed. And so you got to learn how to be a leader, a motivator, a person that can go out and shake hands with bigger deals and bring in outside investment and all those kind of things. You got to be thinking on a bigger picture than being the daily executioner. And ultimately, the fourth and final phase isn't retirement. That's where so many people get fucked up in America. They're like, if I just work till I'm 60, maybe 65 if I fuck up for a few years, I don't have to work at all anymore. And then by 67, they're like, where'd the money go? Usually by 65 and 6 months, they're like, oh shit, I really shouldn't have bought those 3 bottles of Cristal that one month when I retired. Right? And so it's never retirement, because once you've built something, the next thing is to be able to step away from it and let it continue to build without you. So that's when you hire a CEO to replace you and you just become an owner/investor. So you're no longer an operator. So you may have retired in a sense from the actual work, but you're still generating the income from it. You still show up as chairman of the board, those kind of things, for quarterly meetings or whatever the case may be. But it's not retirement. See, most people think about quitting. I'm going to sell my company, get out of my money. And then 5, 10 years later, they either get the itch to go start something else. And then, you know what? It's a lot easier when you're in your 30s and you're good looking and you're healthy and shit to go out and make sales than it is when you're 65. They're like, get out of here, old man. Seriously. It's not a popular thing to say. And most people won't say some shit like that. But I'm just going to be fucking real with you. Yeah. If I have an opportunity to buy from some 70-year-old dude versus some 30-year-old dude. The 30-year-old dude, at least I know I got at least 5 years of fucking work coming out of him. The 70-year-old, fuck anybody's guess how long that guy's going to be in my life. You know?
Yeah.
Just being smart. I know that is illegal to say, but I don't have any 70-year-olds applying here, so I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
But you know, the ownership where you've built, so think you took the risk, hired the people, led the people, replaced yourself, and now you get passive cash flow from a machine that you've built for the rest of your life. And if you're smart, you do what the rich do, which is why they get richer. You let your money make money for you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as a guy that's made millions of dollars a year for a few years now, at some point, unless you're just a complete moron, you run out of shit to buy. Right? Like, I don't need fucking helicopters and jets and yachts and stuff. And of course, I'm not that rich. Some people are, you know, they need to blow $1 billion to do their tax bracket for the year or whatever. But, you know, if you're intelligent, the way that I see it is, you know, you might reward yourself. You make your first million. You might buy a Rolex. You might buy a nice car. You might upgrade your house. Year two, what shit? You've already done all the shit you want to do. Right. So if you're smart, take that money you're working for you. So by the time you do step into that ownership position, you might have some ownership in 15 or 16 other things too that carry you through retirement. For those of you that are already old, disclaimer, and you listen to this and you're like, shit, man, it's too late for me. What do? You leave your bank account open here in America and you move your ass to Thailand, and those $600 a month Social Security checks go a lot fucking further there, and they take the same Bank of America debit card over there they take here.
There's a life hack
You are
for you right
fucking
there.
welcome.
Well, I just want to highlight like how broken up that process is, because, you know, we think of all these leaders out there, and I'm not going to say names, obviously, but that really influence people thinking you go straight to CEO when you become a business owner, versus there's steps that you have to grow and evolve through. And I think there's also parts where people get stuck at one level and they don't really know what the next step is. Like, you know, they finally go out on their own and they get a little success and they've got a handful of clients, but they're like, I don't know what the next step is, and how long can I keep training people? Because I don't want to be the 70-year-old trainer. Like, I know that's what scared the shit out of me as I was going through this career, is how do I grow and multiply throughout that process?
Well, you know, one of the things too that people don't understand is just because you start an LLC in the position you choose as CEO, by definition, you're really not, you're the CEO of nothing at that point. You're the CEO of a piece of paper from Secretary of State, right?
Right.
But when you, like, the true definition, the corporate definition of a CEO is someone who is a CEO of a company and has a board of directors, right? Like, and so that's how you really know it. You can call yourself. I remember when I started my first company, it was called Lifestyle Connections. And I had two partners, and we were in the real estate business. So what we did was we connected people that were wanting to buy houses to builders that had houses. So we connected you to this lifestyle, right? And, you know, I had two partners. We were all 33% or whatever the hell, right? And when we went to go get business cards, this is back 2004. So we went to go get business cards. They're like, what should we get on the business cards? I was like, all of us need to get CEO on them. First of all, we ain't got a real company anyway. It's just us three. And if you give your card to somebody, we want them to think that you're somebody important. VP, who's the guy in charge, right?
Right.
So I gave all of us C, because that's all it meant anyway. And nobody ever, we sometimes would give both of our cards out. Nobody would say nothing about it. But that's how easy it is to call yourself a CEO. But when we think about a CEO, we think about some dude sitting up in some ivory tower with a fucking nice table and executives. And that's where you really got to go. Like, I do those meetings with my board of directors, and we go and rent out a nice hotel room for the day and do our meetings there. So we do them off site. It's just something to do there. But you know, I'm grooming them to replace me. I get two people in my organization that I'm grooming to replace me in the next 5 years, you know, and that's what I'm living the shit that I'm teaching here, you know?
Yeah. And I think so many people have probably never heard that process before, at least not heard it as structured as that. And, you know, whether you intend to sell your business or whatever, like, I think we should all be striving for those steps.
Yeah.
And if you really want freedom, which is really what I think a lot of us are after, then that's the path right there. Because to me, like, it allows you to still be involved in what you're passionate about, still be rewarded for your efforts, build other people up and help other people along the way. And then you get to reap the rewards for it instead of having to work for it until you die.
Yeah, I literally was listening to one of your Rewire episodes on the way over here to do this today. And you talk about you want to lose 30 pounds. That's a big ass number. Well, what does that break down to per day?
Yep.
Like 1/3 of a pound, and just do the math on that. Like it's the same thing that our audience does with their clients. We're just doing this in a business context.
That's it.
So I like to dig in a little bit as far as like your motivation. And, the question I'm going to pose to you, I'm going to frame it with this. Like, you've reached this level of success. You got money, you got the house and the car and the kids and the wife and all that. So when you wake up in the morning, what gets you out of bed?
2 tricks. There's I got a trick for this. If I woke up and I saw all the money that I had in like one account, I probably wouldn't go to work. I'd be like, oh shit, I made it. Put my feet up, sleep in. I really would. So I have a lot of bank accounts that if any given point that I log into one, I'm like, oh shit, I'm broke. I got to for me, our bills are, 6 figures a month. So if I log into a bank account and I've got $10,000, $20,000 in there, to some people, it might seem like a lot. To me, I'm like, shit, I got to make some sales today. I use that for forever. So one thing is I wake up and literally my reality around me makes me believe I'm broke. So I got to get my ass to work. A lot of people, I see, and I spend every dollar I get. And what I mean by that is I either invest it back into the business or I invest it into something that's going to create equity or positive cash flow. Some people, they get money, they can't wait to buy a Rolex, they can't wait to buy a car. I've already had all that shit. So at this point, as soon as I get money, I had a dude text me this morning. He's like, hey man, I need to borrow $100,000. I was like, dude, you're 2 days late. I just bought fucking 2 houses in the last 24 hours, but give me 30 days. I'll have another $100,000 to invest in, and I'll put it in with you. Right. So I'm even like making plans where I'm putting money in the future, and I've been doing this long enough now to where this year will be the first year that some of these things that I invested in years ago start to cash out. So I'll start to act, which means then I get to double down. Right. So that's how you get like the real money. So that's part of it. The second part is I'm trying to truly help people. I don't know, like some might call it an affliction, but or a curse, but I have been called by God to change people's lives, starting with the way they think. And it's not something where it's like, and some of y'all, you got called to be a fitness professional. Some of you got called to be a mortgage person or a banker, and that's your mission and your DNA code here on this planet. For me, it's not a dollar amount, and I've got a certain dollar amount. I'm not going to mention it on here, but I've got a dollar amount that when I hit that and that's my worth, I'm going to give all my shit away for free, because I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this because I see the changes that have happened in the people that have come through our program. I've seen the change in your life. I've seen the change in your life. I've seen the change in the fucking camera guy's life, right? Yeah. Everything, these ripples that because of the massive action I take, because of the way that I carry myself, like there's no dirt on me, and nobody can say, yeah, well, Ryan acts this way, but he's not. You see me at my worst because it's early as fuck in the morning and I haven't showered yet and stuff, but I'm still the same cat. Most days I'm in a good mood, and most days I got a story about something cool that, and so, for me, I love my life so much that I want other people to experience this true like heaven on earth. And I know a lot of people think they can't. And a lot of people have thought themselves into a place that they won't. And I know how to break that shit. I'm a guy that's come back from 2 times in prisons, 3 times divorced. I've been bankrupt. I've been kicked out on the streets. I've been addicted to drugs. I have been like, dude, I got fired from fucking Sonic. Imagine that. I could literally write a check for like 5 fucking Sonics right now and just be like, oh, hey, this is what we bought this month. But they fucking fired me for working too hard, by the way. I really was. I got fired for working too hard. And I see what's possible. A guy that come from nothing, that has every excuse, every black mark, every fucking thing, that's put it all out there and been able to do this. And the way that I look at it is like, shit, if my life's this good, and you haven't been to fucking prison, and you weren't adopted, and you haven't been through the fucking shit, your life could be even better. You got a bigger head start than I do.
Yeah.
And that's really what I wanted. So that, I started off wanting to help people make money. I was a sales trainer, help people make money. And I realized a lot of those people would make money and then create a problem. Money will magnify who you are. There's 2 things that really magnify human beings, money and alcohol. The more you have, the more it shows who you really, some of your friends, they get to drink and they're like, fucking bro, like, and you love those guys. But then you also got some friends that get to drinking and they want to fight people. And you're like, dude, that guy's over there, like, with his kids, calm the fuck down, right? Because it brings out who they really are. Right. Money does that same thing when it's like, oh, I can buy my shit. And we see celebrities act a fool and do this stuff, And because money's a magnifier. All of a sudden, it's like, I got money. It puts me in a position of power and authority, right? And I would watch these people get addictions, get divorced, and the money didn't make their life better because it magnified who they were. It wasn't until I realized that I could change. They have to change, but I could give them the tools to change their mindset. So if I change their mind and then change their money, they got a better chance of keeping it together. Because, we got a guy that I helped make about $1 million in 6 months back in 2016. $1 million in 6 months, life-changing money for this guy. This guy fucking made 10 grand a month, maybe once in his life. So now all of a sudden he's got his hands on $1 million. Goes on a huge cocaine bender, fucking does all these drugs, is fucking absolute fucking carnage, right? Somehow his lucky ass winds up on the Ellen show. I don't even know how the hell he got on there, right? For like rescuing a dog, they must have had a slow season or something. Then still continues down this path, leaves us, right? Continues down this path of destruction. Hey, I did this on my own. You didn't help me. It's like, dude, everybody who bought from you was in Apex, but whatever. And then just a couple of days ago, the dude was arrested by the FBI for storming the fucking Capitol. And I think, right? Wow. And I think, like, fuck, this guy was my client. But he was a client in a time when I didn't change people's mind. And a part of that's my fucking fault because I had those tools because I had done them myself, but that's not cool. Changing your mind and changing your life's not cool. It's like, well, everybody says that shit, right? Teach me sales training. Fucking dance, monkey, dance. You know what I mean? I want my money, dance. But if I don't get your fucking mind right, that make you rich, you're going to wind up like this fucking jerk off who was storming the fucking Capitol and is probably going to sit in prison. This dude shot pepper spray and fucking had like a gun on him. This motherfucker ain't getting out of jail. He's gone. And fucking crazy. I had 2 clients that stormed the fucking Capitol and got arrested. One of them's on the news one day and I'm like, oh shit, that's fucking wild, man. She did that. And then like 2 days later, I was like, fuck, that's him. Jesus.
I like what you said though about you owning your part. And not that, you didn't cause what he did, but just understanding and reflecting of, hey, I can still be better. You tell us all the time, like we're trying to be the most elite version of ourselves. And that requires us to change our thinking, to change our actions, to change our relationships, oftentimes to shed people from our lives. And those things are all hard things to do that most people are not willing to go down that path. So they'll just continue to accept whatever it is and live the way that the average person around them is living and never step into who they really are meant to be. So, I appreciate that about you, that, you are constantly evolving and figuring out how can I be better? How can I serve better? How can I make that bigger impact?
We all should be, we really should. And here's something that's really cool. Hopefully if you got nothing out of this show, you'll remember this, including you guys. Remember this is like, science says that when we change our mind and we change our body, we actually have rearranged the code in our DNA. So if you're a fat person and you lost a lot of weight and now you're a fit, healthy eater, good person, and you procreate, the DNA that you pass on is not the fat person's DNA. It's the recoded DNA of the healthy person. So it's the same way. If you have a fucked up mindset, like the Stormy, we'll just call him Stormy, like Stormy over here, right? If you have a fucked up mindset like Stormy, but you fix it, and then you start making money and you live your best life, and then you procreate, you pass that best part of you. The old mind's been rewired. It's not in your DNA anymore. You pass the best part on. And think about that. Like, so when we start thinking correctly and we start putting ourselves in the right position to win, and we follow the G code or the Apex mindset or the FYE, whatever you want to call it, we got a lot of cliches that we could use in our lingo. But when you do that, you're breaking a generational curse that was passed down to you, and you're breaking the bad things that have held your family back, right? You have an opportunity to change yourself and then procreate that change. See, here's what I think has happened in America. People have gone backwards. Our great-grandparents were in great shape. They need to work on the farm and all this shit, right? So when they procreated, they had fucking strong kids that could bale hay, right? Now people are sitting in their bean bags playing video games, doing all this shit. They're not getting exercise, so they get fat. Then what do? Right? They procreate because they ain't got shit else to do. It's not like they're fucking in the gym. So they procreate, and then they have fat kids. And then the fat kids, and until one of them changes their body composition, which rewires their DNA, they have now passed on a curse that didn't exist. So you look back at if you are a person that's overweight and your parents are overweight, but your grandparents aren't, you know who to blame. You also know that you can fucking change that shit. And you can fix it to where it's not that way for your kids. And if you already have kids, cool, you'll all change it together. And when they procreate, the next generation will break the curse.
Man, that's so funny you mentioned that. So, like, I listen to Joel Osteen, like, every morning. Like, that's part of my, like, it's one of my go-to guys I go into. He was literally talking about generational.
My daddy told me a story.
Hello, Lakewood. Yeah. Well, he was talking about generational curses and how when that does get passed down, you do have the ability to stop that curse in its place. So, to hear you touch on it, which is the Ryan Stewman way, you always put your touch on things, I think is awesome, man, and inspirational.
Well, think about business, right? Like, so my family, my grandparents, they were poor. And then my parents, they were kind of like lower middle class, right? We'll just call it that. But my kids are fucking rich, right? I broke a generational curse that nobody in my family has ever had the money in the business that I have. Nobody in history. And so and we all come from very humble beginnings, but my kids don't come from humble beginnings. You know what I mean? Maybe Jax does. The other two don't, and he don't remember what that's like either. Yeah. You know what I mean? They struggle to figure out which ATV they're going to ride for the day or whatever, you know. But I broke that curse.
First world problems.
But if I was also in my family, most of them are overweight, right? Like, as my trainer, like 100% of the body fat that I have is in one area of my life. It's in my midsection. I don't have fat on my arms, my shoulders, my fucking chest, my legs. It's just one fucking spot. And that's my family, right? Well, I'm doing my best, and my kids are going to be different because I'm trying to pass a gene on that, hey, you can still eat what you like, you can still do what you want, but if you'll work, I'm passing that working gene onto them to where, my kids, hopefully, they didn't see me walk around with a gut, so they're not going to let themselves be held to that standard either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that it's interesting because we see it with money a lot, that just broke mindset of like, oh, this is just the way it is. And I've even talked to guys in our network that are, they're a little intimidated to step out on their own because of what the story's been told for years. You go to work and you work 9 to 5 and you take your check and you get your benefits.
You be a comfortable little bitch.
You be a comfortable little bitch. Yeah. And these are guys that are successful, that make good money, but they're so scared to take that step because of what's been told and what their parents told them and what society tells us. You go to school and you go to college and you get a degree and you go get a job and you die. And until somebody is willing to step out and break that cycle continues. And that's what I love about our network and Apex is that, it encourages those willing to take that step to actually do it and own it and be that person that does break those curses. So I love that. That's awesome.
What I would do right now, if I was a smart person that couldn't afford college, I'd get somebody with money and to have them buy the courses, and then I would just take them as them. So I would learn. I wouldn't get the degree, but I'd know the shit because the degree's fucking useless anyway. Yeah. And I'm like, for those of you that live in other countries that listen to this, lazy Americans will pay you to take their fucking classes for them. And right now, all classes are virtual, so no time like the present to get that free fucking doctorate you've been waiting.
You got a business model for everything, man.
For everything. With the broke mindset, and being afraid to take a risk and stuff like that. First of all, if you know you can close sales and generate leads, you have no fear, right? So that's something to remember. The second thing is, I'll never forget when I was like 16 working at the car wash, and this dude came in with the O.J. Simpson Bronco. Man, those were like hot. And it was white, but it had like pearl fade to gray, dude. It was just like beautiful back in the day, right? It's crazy that I can even remember this, And the license plate on it said Dudeski. And so, and he had a boat that said it on the back too, right? So he would bring the boat for us to wash. So one day I asked him, he was like, hey man, what do you do for them? He's like, I'm in construction. And back then I was so poor and my family was so poor that I thought middle Plano was like rich. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys know because you live here. I thought Central Plano was rich, which is where he lived. But that shows you how fucking poor we were. And so I take him to his house one day, drop him off, and bring his Bronco back to detail it. And my stepdad, who ran the car wash, just happened to pull in, and he's like, "Oh, that guy's back again." I was like, "What the fuck? This guy always tips me $10. He's cool as shit. What the fuck, right?" My stepdad's a big hater kind of guy, and then I was like, "Yeah, he owns his own construction business. Nice guy. Comes and watches the car all the time." He's like, "Yeah, you know what? Those guys that are all flashy that own their business, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And he might make $1 million a year, but he's lucky if he keeps 30 grand of it." And I'm like, okay, but like, that's what people tell us, like my kids, the teacher calls me, emails me, and we got to go do this call conference about a month ago. Well, your kid, he likes to get attention, and he's always cracking jokes, and he talks a lot, and that's not a good place in life. It's not going to help him later in life. I'm like, lady, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know what pays for his private school? The fact that he's got a dad that talks all the time, laughs all the time, and gets a fucking bunch of attention. You're teaching my kid to be fucking poor. Like, we're gonna have to work something out here, because I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to rewire his mind the wrong way. Those are the things that it takes in life. You ever heard the phrase, "a closed mouth goes unfed"? You want the dude to starve to death? Shit, let him tell his jokes.
That's so funny because, you hear these things over the years of like, they're indoctrinating people. Like, it's not that bad. And then
it fucking is.
Right. Then you start to realize, oh, they actually are. Yeah, that's not good.
And I call those people agents of average, right? Like, this whole planet's designed to keep us average, right? Like, and everybody, you'll know this when I say it. You ever lost weight? Took you 90 days. You lost 30 pounds. 15 days later, you're like, how the fuck did I put this back on? It was only one chocolate cake, right? Like, that happens, right? That's the highs and lows in life, the ups and downs. So every time you're trying to do something great, there's what I call the force of average on this planet that pushes you back, not to a low point. Some of y'all fuck around and go too far south, but not a low point, but just back to average. Everything in this world's created to keep you average. Schools keep you average. Debt to keep you average. A job to keep you average. The teachers to keep you average. The people in your life that tell you not to brag and not to boast and not to have an ego and not to chase your dreams and that you need to shut up and do things their way. Like, everything on this planet is trying to keep you average. It's crazy, this world that we live in. Everything here could kill you, and damn near everything is against you. But they disguise being against you as being for you to be comfortable, right? I'm not against your success, but why do you really need all that, right? Like, that's how people act, right? And so this happens our whole life. From a young age, they're telling kids to sit down, shut up, and don't get attention. Fuck, then they wonder why they can't pass an interview to get a job, right? They got to go work for the IRS and shit. Those fucking dickheads, because they got no personalities. Then the whole life we hear things like money doesn't grow on trees. Well, let me rewire your mind about that. Maybe we're trees, and maybe the fruit that we produce as trees is money. Because I know I don't bear fruit. I ain't making apples and shit, but I know how to make some fucking Benjamins, So maybe the fruit that I produce is money, because money's what puts food on people's tables. Money's what fucking helps people become better. Money's what keeps people from fucking starving. All that shit, right? And so all these people have been teaching us just because they say things that are cliche that their grandparents told to them. One of my favorite stories is Zig Ziglar's Thanksgiving, and his wife's there. His wife's got a pan. She cuts the ends of the ham off. Zig's like, fuck, I grew up poor. The ends of the ham is like the greatest fucking part of the ham. What the hell you cut it off and throw it away for? She goes, I don't know. My mom taught me how to make ham. That's how she makes it. Mom's in the other room. Yo, your daughter's in here wasting. I tell it so much better than Zig. Your daughter's in here wasting ham and shit, man. I'm trying to suck on the ends of this ham. She threw it in the trash. She said, it's your fault. What the fuck is going on here, lady? She's like, well, that's the way my mom taught me. Grandma's in the room, and he's like, look, they're saying it's you. What's the deal? She goes, I don't know why they cut it off. I couldn't afford a pan big enough to fit the whole fucking ham in. Right? And so that's how most people's like, oh, I just say that because that's what my parents say. Money don't grow on trees. Money won't buy you happiness. Have you proved that? Have you dug into that theory, or are you just repeating some shit, cutting the ends off the ham? And the reason they said it was because literally money didn't grow on trees back then. Most of the time you bartered with people, right? And now money does grow on trees. We're the trees. And so you have all these people that are telling you the opposite of what's true on this planet to where you believe it. And then guess what? Every time you become great, you lose weight, you make a little money, the force of average sneaks in your subconscious and tells you that you're not worth it. And sometimes it's through a parent. Sometimes it's through a trusted advisor. And it says, hey, man, you don't need all that. You didn't work for it. You didn't deserve it. You find some way to get rid of it. And then you're like, shit, I enjoyed being great. So you end up on this roller coaster of life. And the truth behind it is that's how this planet's made. But if you want to beat that, if you want to beat the algorithm and you want to get up and stay up, you have to stay focused. And focus means tuned in and taking action on whatever it is that you have the vision to complete, but tuning out and banning distraction from anything that gets in your way of that mission. I had a talk this morning with my wife. She got on my ass last night. She said, I've been talking to you for fucking 2 weeks now, and I don't think you've heard a word I said because you haven't even answered. And I was like, you've been talking to me? I didn't know. I just thought we were going through a period where we weren't talking. She goes, no, literally, I'll stand in front of you and talk to you, and it's as if I'm not even fucking there. And I said, well, let me tell you, I go through periods in my life where I'm so focused on one thing. This time it just happens to be my business. We're just crushing it right now in one of my businesses, and then we're opening up locations of another one. So, like, I'm hammered down right now at work. And I just had to tell her, it's like, man, I apologize, because sometimes I get so focused that I just tune everything that is not in the path that I'm on. And it's a blessing because I can do that. I can tune it out, right? But it's also a curse because the family's like, yo, we're just checking in. Haven't really heard from you in a couple of weeks, even though you've been home, you know? And but getting that extreme level of focus keeps you from stepping away. Because what happens is, you know, you lose 30 pounds. Cool, you were focused, you put the time in the gym, and then guess what happens? The force of average or some agent of average goes, oh, man, come on, we'll just go out for a few drinks and have some pie. You deserve it. No, fatty, you don't. That's why you had to lose 30 pounds in the first place, right? And so you would stay focused to keep that 30 off if you were, you know, focused individual and you understood that. But we don't. We think, oh, yeah, you know what? I do deserve something. It's just like the person says, I'm going to get a snack before I write the blog post. I'm going to get a drink. Yeah. They're giving themselves all this shit before they do the work. It's even worse for most people. It's like, oh, I did the work. Yeah, I can cheat a little bit. It never cheating a little bit, cutting a little bit corners, like taking a day off, skipping leg day. Like none of that shit fucking works, you know?
And I think the focus is so important because, again, like you said, there's distractions everywhere, but a lot of people, whatever the goal is, whether it's health or business or whatever, if they focus for 30 days, like literally just put 30 days on the calendar. So I'm going to fucking laser focus for 30 days and see what's actually possible when that happens, they'd never go back. But they don't because they're still not fully committed to it. It's the reason 75 Hard works so well because it gets people so focused for a short amount of time and they think, okay, I can do this for this little amount of time, and then they see what's possible. But even with that, some people revert right back when they're done with that program too. So it's difficult. It's a hard thing to overcome, and it really does take that rewiring of our mind and having something front and present all the time to remind us of that.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that I've heard you talk about before, but you didn't hit on this past time is, you know, whenever you're getting that force of average coming at you strong and heavy, and we got those seasons that we go through, it's typically right before something big as shit about to happen on the other side. And I know for me personally, just understanding that and going through it, like my perception's totally shifted whenever the force of average is coming strong on me. I know on the other side is that boss that for the video game metaphor that you've used. So if you want to touch on that, man, I think that'd be awesome.
You know, I will, but you believe in the other side because you've been with us to have your mind to point you in that direction. You probably didn't always believe in the other side. You've been around long enough to know there's another side, right? Most people don't believe there's another side. They think that's the dead end, right? So there's a book by Ryan, what's his name? The Obstacle is the Way. Holiday, thank you. I knew you knew because you're a stoic guy, but so I knew you'd spit it out in a second. But Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. I say it this way because I like to make things a little simpler than 300 pages in a book, but the struggle makes you stronger. I am in a constant push for personal greatness, which means I got to get stronger every day mentally. I got to get stronger physically every day. I got to get stronger in my relationships and stronger in my stance on this planet. I come to you a couple of weeks ago and I was like, dude, we're going to have to fucking turn this shit up by 15 minutes and more reps, you know? And for those of you that don't know, Mark's my trainer, and we already do high intensity shit. And so I'm like telling them, hey, in 2021, we're turning it up. And I bitch about it the whole damn time, but we're doing it, you know? But I got somebody that can hold me accountable and help me tune it up and turn it up like that. Most people don't do that. Most people get to a place and they just turn it off, right? They don't keep turning it up. They get to a place where they just turn it off. And the reason why I'm turning it up is because if I struggle in the gym, I'm getting stronger physically. If I struggle in my business, I'm getting stronger physically. So when I'm up against an obstacle, I got to be strong enough to lift that fucking thing, right? So why wouldn't I be, and guess what? If I'm lifting it, there's a reason, because I could just pick up a bar with weights on it, not a damn obstacle. So there's something on the other side that I'm trying to get to. Most people, when the obstacle shows up, when the struggle shows up, they think it's a dead end for them. But here's the beautiful thing, if you'll wrap your mind around this. There's always the other side of the obstacle. There's always strength from the struggle. And if you refuse to quit, I'm telling you what, the struggle, the obstacle, they're little bitches, right? They'll fuck with you for a couple weeks, but they quit. They tap out every fucking time. If you refuse to tap out, eventually they will. Some take longer than others, but if you refuse to tap out, eventually they will. If there's one secret to success on this planet, it's just don't fucking quit.
Yep.
Give you an example. 20 years ago, people started trading Pokemon cards. Nobody gave two fucks about them. They were absolutely useless. One day, this guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who's very loud and likes to interrupt people on podcasts, starts talking about Pokemon cards. Next thing you know, they're worth millions of fucking dollars. So the folks that never gave up fucking collecting them back in the day and believed in them had their fucking day in court, right? All of a sudden, they are balling fucking rich, you know? And you have to think of it this way. There was a game when I was young on Nintendo called Kung Fu. And Kung Fu, you were like this dude, and you had the sweep kick, the jump kick, the backhand, like, and you rolled through the level, and you fought a bunch of weak-ass dudes along the way, like one-hitter quitters, like, you know, you just like knock this dude out, and then the next guy comes up, you sweep kick him, and they like one-hitter quitter, you knock him off. You get to the end, man, you got to beat on the big boss at the end, like, you got to hit this dude a couple hundred times and hope he don't hit you a couple times in the process and kill your man. Well, the struggle's the same way. You know, we're going through life and, you know, oh, shit, this is a little obstacle, no big deal. This is a little obstacle, no big deal. Oh, shit, divorce. Pfft, that's like the fucking dead end for most people. But for me, I'm like, hey, man, when I get through this divorce, and I'm going to get on the other side of it, then I'm going to get my life back and everything's going to be the way that it was, and even better, I'm going to keep pushing through it. For me, I'm going through life. I'm a fucking millionaire in 2005, and the cops raided my house thinking I was a drug dealer, which I wasn't. Long story short, I end up getting in trouble for firearms, going and doing 15 months in jail. A lot of people would have said that's the dead end for me. But I'm like, hey, when I get on the other side of this, this is a struggle, but when I get on the other side of this, I'm going to win again. I always believe in my life that no matter what has come up against me, that there's always another side of it. Most people believe the opposite. They believe that whatever came against them is the end of whatever it is that they're doing. Yeah. And I'm just like, hey, if I just stay stubborn enough to stay in the struggle, eventually I'll win, because the struggle's weaker than I am, because eventually it fucking quits. It's like, you know, somebody can only hold you down for so long in an MMA fight before they get fucking tired and got to let you up, right? Somebody can only hold you in a bear hug for so long before they fucking, their arms give out and they got to let you go. It's the same way with the struggle, man. So you just got to be there to endure it, you know? And sometimes it's boot camp, sometimes it's hell week. You know what I mean? But you got to get through it.
That's the life hack right there. All right, so a couple rapid fire questions for you here. And you can answer them as long as you want, but favorite cereal, either now or as a kid?
Fuck, I haven't eaten cereal in forever. Probably Fruity Pebbles.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You should be proud that I answered that way. I haven't had cereal in forever. We have a bunch of it at the house. Kids love it. You know?
Cool. If you could be a superhero, who would you be?
Probably Tony Stark. That guy.
Yeah.
Iron Man.
Yeah. Shit, fuck Iron Man. I just want to be Tony Stark. Iron Man had all that work and bullets and shit shot at him. Tony was just like, you know, driving cars, living the life. So.
Playboy billionaire at the Empress.
Yeah.
Tony's badass.
Yeah.
If you could have a message on a billboard for everyone to see, what would that message be?
Man. That's a good one. The problem with that is I would say something like, when you change your mind, you change your life, something of that nature. But the problem is that's so simple, it would miss people. I think if most people don't understand that the true answers in the world are the simplest answer, that's the way we were created, and complexity keeps people from taking action. And so, man, to put a message up on a billboard, you know, the simplest message would be the most powerful, but it would also be skipped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, I probably put something up there like the struggle makes you stronger. But really what people, and they would never let you do this, but really what needs to be put up on a billboard is just fuck your excuses. Imagine if you were driving down the street like, man, fuck, I'm running late. Oh, I guess I'll call. Oh, shit.
And then a website to buy the hat,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. So finally, if you had an ask of our audience, literally anything, what would you ask our audience to do, think, whatever it may be?
I would ask you to believe that there's another side. You know, I would. And the thing is, you being an audience of this show means you're part of a community. There's certain language, there's certain words that we use in this community that outsiders don't. So you're a part of this, the fact that you're here, which means that you get to represent, you know, Mark and Jonathan. You get to represent the guests that are on here. You get to push this word out there. And so imagine if you tell somebody about the Real Talk with Real Fit Pros podcast and you're out of shape and you haven't shaved your beard and you smell like shit. They'll be like, why would I want to listen to anything that's fucking going into your brain, right? But when you do the stuff that we're talking about, the other guests, myself, and you come through here and you truly understand that and believe there's another side, you'll live your life and represent life like there's another side. And man, that creates an attractive quality, not just to you, but to the whole community here, you know?
Yep. Amen to that. Man, you're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Appreciate it, man.
So tell the people how they can find more of you or whatever, how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so everything is at hardcorecloser.com. All my social media is there. There's a bunch of blog posts, my podcasts, and videos. There's literally like 5,000 fucking things there. So, and do you write for us there too, or no? I know that we just did a second round. I know you do, Mark. If you're interested, that's something that you can do with this too. So we have a ton of content out there, lots of good writers that are putting content. So anything mindset, sales, marketing, or more related there's videos, podcasts, blog posts, everything on it. So
Yes, sir. And if you're interested in our Apex network, I got a link somewhere I'll share with you.
yeah, there you go.
Because I get compensated for that shit. And it's awesome.
We're going to split it.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, thanks so much for taking out time of your, well, apparently you really didn't have anything going on today. So
Yeah, lucky you. Yeah.
Awesome. We appreciate you sharing all the wisdom, all the knowledge. I appreciate everything you've done for me and for us over the years. And the best is yet to come, man. So
Wait till we get good.
wait till we get good. All right. We'll close this out. John, hit him with the tagline, baby.
And as always, we hope you enjoyed the show. And don't forget, go get what you're worth. Yeah. Damn good show.
Damn good.